When I started in television in the mid-1970s as a script editor in the BBC's drama department, there were no film schools in this country. There weren't that many across the world. There were a couple in America, but the main ones, the important ones, were all in Eastern Europe and perhaps France. And this was because the film school originates from the conviction of one of the world's great dictators, Lenin. 100 years ago in October, just before the Bolsheviks took over, he announced that for us, the cinema is the most important of all art forms. And to some extent, that dictator was right. It really was certainly the newest and probably the most important art form of the 20th century. Now, interestingly enough, when I went into the BBC, and I was very lucky. There's a lot to do with luck in this profession, perhaps in any profession. It has to do with talent, it has to do with hard work, but then you all need the lucky break. And that was true then as it is now. The head of department was a man called David Rose, who unfortunately just died actually last week. And what he showed me, he didn't sit there and talk to me about his theories of screenwriting. He didn't even actually say, you must watch this film, you must watch this, or sometimes he did that. He actually took me around the building at BBC Pebble Mill and showed me what people were doing. He didn't say, this is what I'm going to do. He just said, come on, have a look at this. And I had my first experience in an editing suite, a film editing suite, which is very different from a digital one. And it was on a Steenbeck, and it was 16mm film. And you actually saw the film, and you actually began to realise that film was made frame by frame. So if the director didn't have this shot, it wouldn't be there to edit it in. If the scene cut wrongly, it wasn't right. And above all, there was a rhythm, almost a musical rhythm, to way the editor works. Just as in the case of Simon, when the sound recordist, for him it's magic. Sound is magic. And you realise that the best people that you were going to work with were like that. They were all magicians in a kind of Aladdin's cave. Now, I'm head of short courses at the film school. What does that mean? Well, the long courses are nearly all MA courses, screenwriting, cinematography, directors. They're either 1 or 2-year courses, full-time. But short courses runs with the school, but in a way separate, in that we do everything from 2-day course in self-shooting, 3-day course in how to edit on the Avid, to longer courses as well, which I'll talk about. The shortest film course in film history was Orson Welles's on the first morning when he shot Citizen Kane. He had come from the theatre. He had actually never made a film before. He certainly hadn't been to a film school. And so he worked the first morning. He knew it was shot by shot. And he worked with one of Hollywood's greatest cameramen, Greg Nolan. And at the lunch break, Greg said, Mr. Wells, do you mind just coming and have a chat? And he said, look, you need to know 4 things about directing before you can direct a film. And I'm going to tell you what they are. You begin with your wide shot. You move in next to your medium shot, and then you shoot over the shoulder, 2 shots, then you do your close-up, and finally you do your cutaways, and then you go home. And that's how Orson Welles learnt how to make a film. Of course, what you choose for a wide shot, what you choose for a close-up, when you put that close-up in your edit, that, of course, takes a lifetime and more to get right. film and television making, you can only learn by doing it. You can spend years, you can spend a year on a screenwriting course that doesn't actually let you write anything. And coming out, you think you might know how to do it, but you don't. And that's where the school, actually, is important and increasingly important today. You won't have an opportunity like I did in the 1970s to work with a man like David Rose, a head of department who was there for 20 years, who would let someone grow up like that. You guys have to do it yourself. And the great thing about the film school is that nearly everybody you meet there who teaches you has made films. They have made films. And sometimes very good films. Nick Powell, who runs it, used to run Palace Pictures with Steve Woolley when they made some great films in the 1980s and 90s. And that is really quite important. As well as the very short courses, we have something in short courses called the Diploma Course. These last up to a year, and in one case a year and a half. They are just 1 day a week, and it's not out of Beaconsfield, it's in London. My favourite course of all the short courses, and I've just been doing this job for a year, is something called a comedy course, which is taught by Bill Dare, who is a writer and sometimes a performer, who has done a lot of work, particularly in radio comedy. And we've talked about sound. I wouldn't underestimate radio either. You're far more likely, if you want to write comedy, or do comedy, or produce it, or direct it, to start in radio and get work in radio than you are in television. The same, actually, is true of script writing and writing drama. Radio 4 does an astonishing amount of drama. No organisation is like that in the world. And we've just set up a short course on radio drama for the first time at the school. It's being backed by the commissioning head of radio drama at Radio 4, called Jeremy Howe, and run by a very experienced radio producer. And with the school, we'll get the sound guys from his department, and also there's the composers. And at the end of the 2 weeks, each of the participants will record a 10-minute drama. And Jeremy Howe has agreed to listen to these, and if any of them are any good, to actually schedule them on Radio 4 in the 15-minute drama slot, which is a very, very good. So on short courses, we always try and at the end of them to come out with something, whether it's a short film, whether it's a script, whatever it is. So it's something to show around, it's something to have. And you'll have been working with your contemporaries. And that's one thing I have noticed about the generations. You can make terrible generalizations that are wrong. But in my day, if you put a bunch of writers, up-and-coming writers, in a room together, if you'd put David Hare in the same room as Howard Brenton and David Edgar and all the others, they probably, by the end of a week or 2 weeks, would have ended up killing themselves, killing each other. What I've noticed really at the school is that there is a sense in all the classes I've taught, in all the groups, people supporting each other. And the industry today really, really does need that. In fact, the industry is booming because of very, very generous tax breaks by this present government, actually. George, in film. If you're a technician, almost of any kind, a designer, the work in film now is unprecedented. Unfortunately, it's not often a British film. It's because Hollywood and the world has come to take advantage of our tax breaks. Even more remarkably, in the last 3 or 4 years, television has become, in a way, the new cinema. The high-end television drama that Simon has spoken about, unexpectedly, unpredictably, has become a dominant form, and people are not watching it. They're not just turning on the telly each week, which they used to. They're watching, as you know, on the computers, Netflix, the box set phenomenon. Now, there is huge investment and the BBC and ITV can't go on just using the 6 famous writers who are reliable, because in the end they'll either die out. They need new talent. It is actually, paradoxically, a really, really good time to be thinking about going into film and television, which I don't think people ever thought when I went first into TV. It was a kind of, nobody really knew, other than people working inside the BBC and ITV, how films were made, what the process was. Not at all. Now, you can make a film in one of these. So you have access to technology, to new ways of working, which in a way, it will be your generation that finds out how to use them properly. And I think that's all I want to say. Thank you.